Coming up on today's episode of Inside Man United, the headlines. United eager to strip Barcelona and Real Madrid of talented pair as Ratcliffe plans La Liga spree. And United could be barred from Europe next season due to Sir Jim Ratcliffe's takeover and his ownership of Nice. Ten Hag considering Manchester United exit if Sir Jim Ratcliffe changes his role. And undervalued Man United winger Facundo Pellistri sad at current situation as he speaks on complicated time. All that coming up. Hello everyone, good morning to you once again, and the start of a new week, the end of the month and 1 week down of the international break, and I hope everyone was quite pleased with Kobbie Mainoo's debut against England. Seemed to put in a very solid, very reliable, impressive performance for a young man making his England debut. Not the result they would have wanted, but again, Kobbie Mainoo seemed to do quite well, and even my own little Ireland, despite an Evan Ferguson terrible missed penalty, 0-0 against Belgium, with John O'Shea, United legend, on his managerial debut for the Republic of Ireland. So wasn't an entirely bad weekend for an Irishman, but yeah, Kobbie Mainoo making his debut, and great news for him as well. That's not to say that there isn't plenty of Manchester United news still swirling. We've got a lot of players coming back from injury. We're expecting Lissandro Martinez back, Mason Mount also coming back, and I think we're going to have a pretty decent complement of players once the Premier League games start underway once again. But between now and then, we've got a few little items that we need to cover that you heard in the headlines. So let's get into it. So we are kicking things off with the ever-reliable Football 365. We've got Kieran McCarthy here with an interesting story actually on United going after some Barcelona, Real Madrid young recruits. And that is one thing and an approach that I like, is going after big clubs, young players who might not have a route towards the first team because they already have such a strong first 11 or even first kind of 16, including those subs. And, you know, a route to the first team can be difficult, and such is the state of United's team in terms of age profile, form, injuries, etc. It does open up opportunities for us to be able to maybe pick some of the, second tier players that these top teams have that could by all means be a first team player in 3 or 4 years time for the clubs that they're at, but they're just not willing to wait. And, there could be opportunities within the halls of Old Trafford under the new project that INEOS, Sir Jim and hopefully Ten Hag are looking to embark upon. So an interesting story here. United looking at Barcelona and Madrid for reinforcements in the form of Faye and Andre Lunin. Lunin being the stand-in goalkeeper that has been doing very, very well actually in between the sticks for Real Madrid ever since Thibaut Courtois got injured. And Courtois seems to be kind of ramping up with his injuries at the moment, and Andre Lunin could be a good option. I saw a nice article today as well on Matej Kovar, 6'5". I think he's Czech, keeper who was on United's books, was sold to Bayer Leverkusen. Obviously, they've been doing so well this season, and he was speaking about United's troubles. And, I don't think he'd be against coming back, but Onana seems to be safe for now. His form seems to be picking up. But again, that's not going to stop the rumour mill from swirling, such as United's, I suppose, project on just clearing the decks entirely. And if you could get Andre Lunin in for, 20, 25 million, maybe 30 million, you can sell Onana for 50, maybe 55. That's good business. You've got a new young keeper and you've got 20 million in the pocket. And United's FFP is pretty tight. So, all things are possible. So it goes on to say after third place, finishing the Premier League, 2 finals, etc., whether the Dutchman is still at the helm come the summer is currently up in the air. If he is or isn't is of no consequence regarding signings, such as the new approach to how United are going to be recruiting players. And to be honest, I'm all for that. And taking that responsibility of transfers away from Ten Hag is something that could be problematic, because Ten Hag was very adamant that he wanted to be in charge of the type of player he brought in. But United have kind of got themselves into a very, very sticky situation, allowing managers to do that over the last 10 years, and you end up with this hodgepodge constellation patchwork of different ideas, systems, players and attitudes that just don't mesh, and you need to make sure you got the right ingredients for the right dish, because you can have great ingredients but they sometimes just don't go together, and that's certainly what happened at United. So he's vowed to make United the best club in the world once more, and his ambition is taken him to the door of Barcelona and Real Madrid. So according to Fihages, a great publication. They always have the scoop on something to do with Spain anyway. So looking for young talents to strengthen their squad, and Barca centre-back Faye. Now he might get a look in, because there's talk of Jules Koundé being up for sale as well, to help them balance the books, because they get anywhere between 45 and 65 million for Koundé, depending on how badly they need to get rid of him and who's in for him. But apparently he's one of the kind of make weights that they're willing to part with in order to generate some revenue. And of course, De Jong is going to be the main player that we're linked with all summer. I hope not. Last summer that was so fucking boring, and it was so funny watching other United channels just scrambling around the summertime trying to make content around the same shagging story for about 100 days. But anyway, the 19-year-old is yet to play a senior game for the Blaugrana. But Bayer Leverkusen and Milan have been impressed with his quality in academy football. It said the German side are in pole position for Faye, but Barca could raise their asking price from the current 25 million. If that is the case, United could come in and swoop, because they can kind of put up with those types of fees that Leverkusen may not be able to. But again, it kind of gives United a bit of negotiating power if they did want to pick off some of Leverkusen's other players who we have been linked with over the summer. We could say, listen, if you let us have these guys, we're not going to get in the way of you getting your man Faye. So which way do you want to do it? So we'll see, because I've no doubt Leverkusen squad is going to get picked apart this summer, just like Monaco's, just like Brighton's, just like every other kind of small team that seems to exceed expectations. So they're willing to compete for his signature. And they're also going for a supremely talented Real Madrid player, Lunin. So he's always the bridesmaid, never the bride. But he's been getting a good chance now. He's 25 years of age, so you'd want to be kind of staking a claim for a first-team spot now at this age. He's not a young up-and-comer anymore. And goalkeeper can be a dreadfully stagnant position, whereby if you don't kind of cement yourself as a first teamer, before the age of 25, 26, 27, you just kind of get this reputation as a reliable backup unless you want to play in the lower leagues. And it's a tough gig for goalkeepers to try and get that first team opportunity. And, if they come along, you don't turn your nose up at them, which is like why Matej Kovar went to Leverkusen. I for one, was dreadfully disappointed to see him leave. I saw him in preseason for United. He's 6'5". He's so lean, slender, quick. Reflexes are fantastic, and he got I think he got team of the season when he went on loan over to with Sparta Prague, and he did it incredibly well there, and he's doing equally well at Bayer Leverkusen. So he is a shit hot talent, which I think we should be looking back at in case we ever do get rid of Onana. But again, that's a discussion for another day. The Ukrainian has played 17 games for Real in La Liga this season, keeping 8 clean sheets and never being on the losing side. So that's no losses in 17 games and 8 clean sheets, which is pretty impressive. Courtois could well take his place back, which is absolutely going to happen once he's back and he's fit. But, Courtois is not getting any younger and his injuries are starting to mount up. So if this Lunin guy starts to do well, why not get rid of Courtois? Get a few quid, move him on. Got this guy. He's cheap. So yeah, it could be an option for them. He's about to enter the final year at Real, so that means a transfer could go through. They're going to have to sell him unless they're going to leave him go for free at the end of next year. And apparently United are going to have competition from Arsenal for this guy. So obviously Ramsdale and Raya not providing enough to please Mikel Arteta, and Lunin could be an option for them yet again. I think United and Arsenal are going to be going head to head for quite a few players this summer. It's going to be interesting. So United could be barred from Europe next season. This is according to the Daily Mirror, with Matt Cooper writing an article regarding Sir Jim Ratcliffe's ownership of Nice and the fact that you can't have another club that you own playing in the same competition. So if United do well and Nice do well and we're in the Champions League, there could be problems there. So it goes on to say here he owns French side OGC Nice, who currently sit 5th in Ligue 1. They mightn't get into the Champions League, but there is a possibility that could happen. And UEFA's new rules on multi-club ownership mean they would not be allowed to compete in the same competition. So that's going to be a problem. They've changed the rules slightly, allowing clubs under common ownership to compete in different European competitions as of next season, but the ban on those teams playing in the same tournament remains. So yeah, it's gone on to say here, it is correct that Manchester United and Nice cannot play in the same competition. A UEFA insider is quoted as telling The Sun they could play in different competitions as there is no feeding between competitions anymore. If both Nice and United do end up qualifying for the Champions League, there could be a problem there. However, Ratcliffe did insist back in February there are no circumstances upon which the ownership of Nice would prevent United from playing in the Champions League. I'll be crystal clear on that, because we would have to find a solution. The rules are changing and the rules are shades of grey, not black and white. We've spoken to UEFA and I have to say the conversation wasn't directed at you have to solve this problem and we don't like it. We might have to change some things, but what UEFA recognises is that the multi-club model in many circumstances benefits the smaller club quite a lot. It says you have to change the ownership structure. So it's all about influence and positions on the board and that sort of thing. So A, the rules are changing, and B, there are shades of grey, not black and white. City will probably have the problem before we have the problem, because they've obviously got Girona, who are doing well in the Spanish La Liga. So listen, it doesn't sound like Ratcliffe is overly worried about this occurrence. It is something that will have to be addressed, but I don't think he's really all that bothered about it at the moment. But we'll see how things pan out towards the end of the season. But I don't know how you solve it, but it's not my problem to fix. And Sir Jim seems not too concerned about it. So I'm happy to leave that in his lap and see what he does with it. So Erik Ten Hag might consider United exit if role changes. So you may or may not know that Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants to change the title of Erik Ten Hag from manager to head coach. Now you might think that's just semantics, who really cares? But what this means is that, they want to follow the structure of a lot of other clubs where the club is in charge of buying the players and the head coach is there to work with the ingredients that they've been given. Which makes a lot of sense. It makes the club a lot more sustainable long term. I mean, if you've got a Sir Alex Ferguson who's there for 25 years, great, let the manager do everything. That's not how football works nowadays. And you need to change with the times, protect the interests of the club, make sure that there is a long-term safety net and coherent strategy that the club can always stick by, regardless of who comes in to try and, do things. I mean, even when a CEO comes into a top company, yes, they can have some influence over how things are done, but the underlying structure of how things are done, the way the board wants things done, remains the same. And if the CEO acts the bollocks too much, doesn't like it, or wants to change some stuff, they're gone. And that makes a lot of sense. So United manager Ten Hag could make Sir Jim Ratcliffe's decision for him this summer and step aside if he's asked to change his role from that of a manager. Now, apparently when he was going for the United job, he was very expressly clear that in order for him to take the job, he'd want to have final say on transfers. Now, you have to say, his track record so far has not been great. Sofian Amrabat has not been a good signing. Onana, jury is still out. Casemiro, for what we paid for him, despite how good he was last season, is a bad signing. Mason Mount, so far, bad signing. Hasn't been fit, hasn't been able to play, and when he hasn't been overly impressive. Højlund's starting to come good. Martinez, sure. Anthony, that is going to be a whip that will be used to crack across Ten Hag's back for a long, long time. Despite his heroics against Liverpool, he could get Forlan legend status off the back of something like that. But Ten Hag's track record in the transfer market, particularly when you're dealing with the types of fees United are dealing with, you cannot afford to get it that wrong that often. And his record is checkered at best. And then even the decision to let Reguilon go, relying on Shaw saying, oh, well, the physios told me that they'd be fit enough. I think everyone and their mother was screaming at the club, why have you let Alvaro Fernandez and Reguilon go when we've had so many issues at left back? And, the fans were ultimately proven right. But again, sometimes the less you know, the better decision you can make. I mean, the dearth of information and exposure that these guys are having to the club and the players, maybe you'd have made the same decision. Had the physios told you this, Shaw and Malacia will be available, but I don't see how you could rely on that given the injury records of both of them, the tail end of last season and this season. I'm baffled by that. Erik Ten Hag not ready to accept a reduced role, so the report adds the Dutchman will likely have to accept a tweaked role. It says here his recruitment track record is United has been poor after splurging over 400 million in 2 years. You can't really argue with that. And Ratcliffe is said to be keen on allowing specialist sporting directors to sanction deals in the future. Again, that makes total sense. And he won't be allowed the same flexibility. And Ten Hag might have a problem with that. And if he does, he'll be shown the door. It's that simple, and they'll find someone else. So Ten Hag will need to be careful because, you don't just jump into great managerial jobs all the time. And, if he leaves United, that could be the best of his career. He mightn't get another crack at a team of that size and magnitude again. He might, but maybe he just want to shut up and let these guys do what they need to do, and you be the head coach and do what you need to do, and see how things pan out over the next year or two before throwing your toys out of the pram and deciding to leave one of the biggest clubs in the world because they're not allowing you to continue to make the poor decisions you have clearly been making. So we'll see how that goes. And finally, on Football 365, Kieran McCarthy again, talking about Facundo Pellistri's time in Spain. He's been getting a good few minutes, but they, as a club, have not been doing too well. They're second from bottom and 13 points from safety and look very much dead on to get relegated. So that would be a shame, but at least he's getting minutes, and we'll see what happens. But the thing is, if they get relegated, Granada are not going to have the money to be able to buy him, so he's going to end up back at the club, just like Donny van de Beek, just like Hannibal Mabry, and if we can't agree a fee with Dortmund, Sancho's going to be back at the club too. So it has not been going well for the loanees at the moment for a variety of reasons. So he goes on to say he is sad that his loan club Granada are struggling. So yeah, he's been getting a good few minutes. I think he's got 2 goals and 1 assist, I think. So he was allowed to go out on loan, and of the 6 games Pellistri has been at the club for, they've drawn 3 and lost 3, and all those 3 losses have come in their last 3 games, which isn't a great run of form at this stage of the season. Second from bottom, 13 points from safety, like I said. He goes on to say when he told ESPN, at the club we're going through a complicated time, but football is like that. There are good and bad moments, and you have to be quick to change the chip and bring good energy here. I don't know what changing the chip means, but maybe that means something in Uruguay. When I return to the club, we have to continue with the best of energy to achieve our objectives and try to do our best here. I'm getting a lot of minutes at Granada. I'm happy about that part, but sad about how the level of the group is going. We all want to achieve the objective, and the objective, there are still chances. As long as there are chances there, we're going to keep fighting. So it looks like a return to United would more than likely be happening if Granada get relegated. We've got Greenwood over there as well. He seems to be doing reasonably well. There's talk of him coming back. There's talk of him being sold. United now demanding £51 million from Atletico Madrid. Apparently, they were thinking that his price would be anywhere between 35 and 40, and they've balked at United's suggestion of 51 million. But to be honest, Mason Greenwood is worth every bit 51 million. In fact, he's probably worth about 70 to 80 million, given the fact that Cole Palmer and Anthony Gordon went for far less, having done far less in a shorter amount of time. So yeah, we will see. It says here, if the Dutchman is sacked, which it seems is a legitimate possibility, Pellistri could be given a bigger role. I still doubt that, but we'll see what he does between now and the end of the season. And that is all for the headlines today. So that is it for today's headlines. What do you think of the news? Would you have Pellistri back? Do you think Eric Ten Hag is right to throw his toys out of the pram now that the goalposts are being moved on him in terms of his control over transfers? Do you agree with it? I do, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments as well. And then United getting barred from Europe, bit of a concern, but I think it's something that we can kick down the road and not have to be too worried about at the moment. Hopefully we do qualify, we can get that 5th place and get into the Champions League. But again, there's a lot of football to be played between now and the end of the season. And yeah, do a little bit of research, go onto YouTube and look at those 2 young lads, Lunin and Faye from Barcelona and Real Madrid, and see what you think. It's always exciting when you get linked with young lads with fresh potential, people that you mightn't have heard of. I always get a little bit excited about those kind of young players, and see what the future holds. As always, guys, thank you very, very much for tuning in. If you're new around these parts and you do like the content, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and as always, I will see you on the next one.